when you say, I can't do this, you'll say, I will do my best, and that's all I can ask of myself.
Make sure that those people that are safe and positive for you to be around.
It's not the big things, it's all the stuff that led to it. So celebrating means, hey, I'm getting one step closer to where I want to be or who I want to be or the things that I want to have.
Hello, everyone. We are here for another episode of Successful Stylist Academy. And I can't tell you, I am so excited to be here. I was just telling Ambrosia, you guys, I just had surgery and I'm recovering, and I am the worst, recovering. I can't be a convalescent, I don't think, because I am so bored. And as hairstylist, I just have to say that because I think you guys can feel it. Because we're so used to even just we stand all day and I'm laying down. How do you do that for a week or more at a time? It's so hard. So coming on here, hanging out with you guys, thanks for being here, is really, really great therapy for me right now. And I'm excited to hang out. And we are actually going to be talking with Ambrosia about overcoming self-doubt, which is something I know none of us struggle with.
Not at all. Never
Right.
doubt myself for a second.
But before we jump into it, I do want to let you guys know something really exciting coming up, super special. We're proud of this. We have some new coaches joining us that are going to be encouraging and lending their expertise along the way for our next group coaching container, which is going to be the Successful Stylist. So just go to our website, go to our page on Instagram at Successful Stylist Academy, check it out, get more info. And we really hope that you're going to join us and see us there, because this is just going to be a time to set goals, reflect on the past year, get ready for next year. We specifically did this before Jan 1 so that we can just start the new year strong. Yeah, that's it. I could talk on that for a really long time, but I'm going to pass it over to you, Ambrosia.
I love how you introduced it as Jan 1 instead of January. That's great. I love that.
I'm very cool.
I like the hyphenated Jan 1. I always try to shorten things as much as possible. But just to piggyback off that, I think, Successful Hairstylist was really built for you, the hairstylist who's listening, to beef up your books, to kind of find ways of being more time efficient behind the chair, ways of diversifying your income. Even we talk about that, how to market yourself to the right type of clients, because sometimes when you're a newer mid-level stylist, you still have clients that are coming in that might be some randos that are not maybe your favorite guests. So that can change, the way that the day feels when you don't have some of your favorite people. I don't need to go into that too much, but I do think it's one of those, if you don't feel like you have strong mentorship, or if you need a second/third/fourth pair of eyes actually to look at your business and how you can build upon it, then that's what we're here for. So I really do hope that you're able to join this container. And if not, we'll have one ready next year. Today, we're going to be talking about how to overcome self-doubt. And I am just going to jump right into it if you're cool with that, Drea. I think this is something that I know I need to practice myself. I think that even if you've mastered this, you need to continue to keep practicing self-compassion. Self-compassion, the way we talk to ourselves, has a huge impact on the way we even see ourselves. And it also has a huge impact on the way people receive us and how people see us as well. So overcoming self-doubt, little tiny steps. I would prompt you to do a little exercise. If you're not into journaling, maybe just writing down something where you are. Maybe if you're having a self-doubt thought, then counter that with a understanding response or a compassionate response to yourself. So an example might be replacing "I'm not good enough" with "I'm doing my best and that's enough." So little tiny things like that make a huge difference in the way that you actually start to see yourself and the way that you self-talk too. I would say the time dedication you should put into this is spend 10 to 15 minutes. So don't make it too heavy for yourself. 10 to 15 minutes daily journaling, or just writing something out, or even saying it to yourself, and also saying it out loud will have a huge impact on your self-reflection.
Yeah, I feel like identifying the root of the cause is huge. I feel like that's kind of like the starting point for me for overcoming self-doubt, which is just like hand in hand with like our insecurities. And this is something just like Ambrosia mentioned, like this is the heavy part. Like this part I think is the heavy part, and it's ongoing. So you don't have to um just sit in it all the time, and you don't have to spend, I mean, I think committing to a certain amount of time to progress through this is really huge and important. But I also don't think that it has to, you don't have to spend your whole week doing this for hours and hours at a time. So identifying the root of the cause of where that self-doubt came from, it can be a past experience. It could be something more general, like as a hairstylist, that maybe the first salon that you started in gave criticism that wasn't as constructive as it could be. It could be a specific experience. I do this thing called Meet Me on the Carpet, and we go back through like meditation and prayer to reclaim a specific time that someone lost their courage, their confidence, like where self-doubt creeped in, and we reclaim that. And that's something that's a little heavier, but super powerful, worth looking into if this is like a struggle that you have had ongoing that's keeping you from moving forward with something that is really, really important to you, with especially with your goal setting. So that could be a coach or a therapist that could take you through that. I love what Ambrosia said about it's basically rewriting your narrative, and it's just practicing rewriting your narrative every day, changing the truth, just saying something a little bit different from how it's trying to manifest in your mind that might not be super, super positive. Journaling so that you can reflect later is amazing. Talking to someone to help you kind of address this more effectively, and sometimes quicker is a really great thing as well. And then I would just say lastly for that is your inner circle. Make sure that those people are people that are safe and positive for you to be around.
That's a good one. I think even just kind of going further into it is like challenging your negative self-talk even. I think throughout the day, it's really easy to like, I'm thinking, for instance, when someone gives me a compliment, I automatically just will be like, oh, yeah, thanks, just kind of shrug it off instead of saying thank you, just like genuinely accepting that compliment. It's easy for us to move on to the next thing, but really stopping to listen to how you respond and how you talk to yourself too. So challenging your negative self-talk could be something as literally stopping that thought process. When a negative thought like enters your mind, then I would say mentally say stop and then replace them with positive affirmations. So I guess an example I could say is when you say, I can't do this, you'll say, I will do my best. And that's all I can ask of myself. It's easy for us to look at the end goal and compare ourselves to the end goal. And if we haven't quite achieved it, then we're going to beat ourselves up. We have to give ourselves compassion enough to say, I'm doing the best I can to make that goal. And that's a reason why it's a goal of mine. And this is part of the process. And I am proud of myself for actually going for it. So instead of letting fear dictate it, and instead of those negative thoughts kind of like creeping into your mind. So I would say dedicate some time to that, practicing your thought stopping whenever negative self-talk occurs. And then aiming for immediate responses, just giving yourself an immediate reactive response. So that way you can start to almost retrain your mind. And I truly believe that we can retrain our thought patterns. It doesn't take anything monumental. You guys we've talked about this before. I think small things make more measure than the really big monumental steps. And that's something also that I want to remind myself of as I talk about it with you. The other piece I would say is setting realistic goals. As we were talking about goals itself, I've talked about SMART goals before. We'll probably go more into that later since we're really focusing on this piece of it. But I would say if you're going to have like a specific goal that you want to focus on, then instead of focusing on like the big monumental goal, I was saying earlier, just like those smaller things that kind of lead to that goal. So the vague goal could be like, I want to be successful. Like, okay, but what does that look like? Set a specific goal as to like completing a certification of a course, and you say to yourself, like in X time, like plug. I want to do the Successful Hairstylist course all the way through and the coaching sessions for all 4 of them, beginning to end in the next 6 months. Like that would be something, it's an attainable goal. You put a time, you put a reference, you put a duration, and that's something that you can set for yourself. So that makes it much easier than saying, I want to be successful, which can be very broad. So wanted to add that in. Drea, what else do you have?
Yeah, so good. I'm someone who could have like all these thoughts and all these visions. So if I'm trying to do anything productively, I really need something that's like super tangible. So one of the times I was really struggling with self-doubt was after I had to close my salon. And did I fail? Maybe in some ways, especially as far as like our culture or society would say, but ultimately, no. And I call it like failing forward. But I kind of had to hide out for a little bit and find my footing. And what that looked like was going back to working on my craft. Like we need things that we can remember, like why we're proud of ourselves. What are the things that we do? What are the things that we do really well? Why did we even start doing what we were doing in the first place? And a lot of it is because we love doing hair. We love talking to people. We love making people feel better and helping them to express on the inside what they can also see outwardly. So for me, tangibly, that was like taking a ton of education classes. And I don't mean just online, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, sometimes I've got my mannequin head out and I'm doing the thing online and I'm not just sitting there on my phone, on the side. But I mean, going in and really taking an education class, being present, not showing up about your outfit and the reels that you're going to create, which again, not bad. But taking a hands-on class, maybe going by yourself and meeting other people, creating just to create without attaching an agenda to it. Just going back into some basics that made me feel really good and just relayed that foundation for me. So that really helped me to move forward and regain confidence where I had lost some.
I like that you spoke about going by yourself to things. That's something that I can attach myself to someone else's hip really easily. And I sometimes close off I close off opportunity with other people. The times that I have gone by myself, I'm looking around the room differently and I'm interacting with people differently because I am, I don't know what else to do with myself. And I think also when people see that I'm alone too, they welcome me into their conversation as well. So it lets you have different conversations rather than the people that you came with. So that was a really good suggestion, Drea. Thank you for that.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm going to say let's celebrate those small achievements because, again, it's not the big things, it's all the stuff that led to it. So celebrating means, hey, I'm getting one step closer to where I want to be or who I want to be or the things that I want to have. And I think even just like writing down regularly those small accomplishments and acknowledging the efforts that you're actually putting in has so much more about like how we're speaking to ourselves, how we're receiving ourselves, and how we're coming across other people. And it does become this self-perpetuating thing. And then finishing your tasks at work. So something that I would say that you could celebrate on a small basis is those little tiny achievements, like learning a new skill or something that you've done at work that you've been wanting to do, or finishing something that you said that you were going to finish that you started earlier on. It could be a small project, like finishing a book, even like whatever the thing is that you may have put off to the sidelines, just finishing that task, celebrating those little small victories. And I'm going to say one last thing is seeking support and positive influence. It's so easy these days to get caught up in the rigmarole of all the things that people are wanting to kind of, I don't know how to word it in a nice way, so I'm just going to say it, but there's just a lot of shit out there. There's a lot of, and it's really easy. Like, have you guys ever heard the expression, misery loves company? So if you find yourself feeling a certain way, and maybe you don't want to unfollow that account necessarily, but it doesn't speak to you, then you can silence it. or just flip through it. Don't give it any attention. Because I will say this, if you see a post that you don't like and you're watching it and you're giving it attention, it's so much more than your time that you're giving to it and your energy that you're giving to it. It's also you're helping them. Like, I hate to say it as far as the algorithm speaks, like if you're saving it or sending it to someone else because you want to like spill the tea, or you are like putting energy into watching it, you're helping that person get further. And we don't want that. If they're doing something that's against you, don't give them any energy at all. Totally not worth it. So allocate at least a few hours a week to socialize with positive people in your life and positive influences in your life, both online and in person. An example would be engaging with friends, mentors, or a support group that encourages and inspires you, because that has a huge significance on the impact of how you see yourself and the way that others receive you. It really, really does make a difference who you surround yourself by.
Life-changing things right there. It's like celebrating those victories, and energy is an exchange. So it's like, if we're putting our energy into that and we're struggling with self-doubt, like what's coming back our way? I just kind of like think about like where do we want to put our time and our energy? Because those are the most valuable things that we have. So so good. Thank you, Ambrosia. I think a lot of the self-doubt that we struggle with really has to do with overwhelm and comparison. And so I think that's like right along with what you're kind of talking about. It's okay to like use the delete and the block and the silence button. And even if it's someone that you don't not like, but there's someone who triggers a comparison thing that you're struggling with at this time, you don't have to block them even forever. But a big one for me is just to remember to stay in my own lane, to celebrate who I am, to be genuine, not to show up the way I think people expect me to show up, because that just leads down a really bad rabbit hole that we don't want to do. So having those positive people around you, like we had both mentioned, staying in my own lane reminds me that I have strengths, and it doesn't mean that I can't work on my weaknesses, but it also doesn't mean that I have to be good at everything. And our job as the hats continue to multiply on our head, like in our industry, we believe a lie that we are truly supposed to be good at everything. And that is impossible. And it sets us up for failure, which then turns into self-doubt. So I think just sometimes disconnecting to be able to reconnect in a really confident, powerful way is necessary sometimes. And Ambrosia, you mentioned this a couple times, but I just put practice compassion. And I said practice compassion in my notes for yourself and practice it for other people, because I feel like when I'm not caught up on what other people are doing and I don't have negative feelings around it and I don't put energy there, all more positivity is surrounding me. I'm able to be compassionate to other people, and I'm able to turn that compassion around and be compassionate to myself as well.
That's beautiful. It's so funny because when you were talking about building up the hats and stuff, I was literally imagining, like, I mean, we've used this analogy before and it's not new or anything, but I do imagine like the weight of each hat that we pile on ourselves, how it actually does start to bog us down. It like weighs us down. It's like such a nice, visual way of comparing that, because we know that the more we build upon ourselves, the more weight it's going to add to us and the heavier things are going to feel. And I have noticed, I mean, I'm human too. So there are times that I am maybe scrolling on Instagram and I find myself just feeling judgmental or irritated easily. That is my first clue that I need to shut it down, that I don't need to be on it. There's no purpose behind this. It's not helpful. And if I'm in that space, then that means I need to recharge. And by recharging means I need to shut everything down and just really have some time to be by myself or be doing something that is more mindless. So that's something that I want to remind you guys of. In any case, we want to encourage you guys to dream big, set goals, take action. That's what we're here for. We will put the link in the show notes for you guys to join us. We really hope to see you then. And we're starting November 20th, by the way. I know it's around the holidays. We will have another one next year. We also see that like we are such compassionate humans and we take care of people on a daily basis. And it's really hard to expel that kind of energy without putting it back into place for ourselves. So there are little exercises and things that you can do on a regular basis to continue to feel your passion and to not feel like super weighted down by these extra hats that we're placing on ourselves. And that's what we're here for. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys next week.